Hello, welcome to Cooking with Anand. I'm sorry I haven't been uploading that many videos lately. The school year kind of wiped me out, but now it's the summer, so I will be back to filming. Today, we are going to be making something for Paul's 20th birthday. Paul is one of our great family friends. His mother was actually the one who gave us the recipe for the tempting toffee crisps, and that's one of my favorite things. But today, we are making mini apple turnovers, because these are Paul's favorite dessert. To start off, we have the dough. I used a pie dough, recipe for pie dough, but I changed the amounts a little bit because it works better in the toffee crisp this way. I used 3 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and I blended that up. And then I added 3/4 of a cup of cold, very cold, diced butter into the food processor and blended it until the butter looked like pea-sized particles. Then after that, I added a little bit of water at a little time. It was about 8 tablespoons of water that I added, but it might change depending on where you live and what flour you used. And then I let that sit, and here I have it. If you're still confused on how to make the pie dough, then go to my pecan pie video and I show the dough recipe there. But use the ingredient quantities that I just said and not the ones I say in the pecan pie video. For the filling in the apple turnover, I am going to be using 4 medium-sized apples. It's good to use a variety of apples because then you have different tastes, different textures, which are great in the dish. I used a 1 Granny Smith, a Gala apple, a Fuji apple, and a Golden Delicious apple. And some of those are tart, some of them are sweet. And for example, the Granny Smith is nice and crisp, so it'll give it a good texture. You want to have at least 1 crisp apple in your dessert. Here I have 3 tablespoons of melted butter, which I'll add later. And I also have the zest of 1 lemon, which I used a microplaner to zest it. If you don't have one of these, you can use a vegetable peeler, peel off the skin, and then cut that up into little bitty pieces and use that. Or you could use like a box grater with the smallest peeling function. I'm also going to use the juice of a lemon. I'm going to have a 1/4 cup of brown sugar and 1½ tablespoons of flour. The first thing I'm going to do is juice the lemons into the apples. It's always good to have your acid when you add it to the apples after you cut it, or else they'll get really brown. Now I'm going to add the butter. Now, one thing you could do is you could melt the butter in a pan and then cook your apples on the pan to get them nice and soft, but I prefer my apples to still have a tiny bit of crunch after they're baked, so I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to add about a teaspoon of lemon zest. That's how much I got from my lemon. If you have a larger lemon, you might not want to zest the whole thing. And you also might not want to add all of its juice. I had a medium-sized lemon. I'm going to stir the zest in. I already added the butter and the lemon juice, and it's going to make a nice little coating around the apples, which will help the dry ingredients stick to it. So now I'm going to add in the flour and the brown sugar. And if you want, you could use more sugar or less sugar. It's really up to your taste preference. Because I used a variety of apples, some that were sweet, some that were tart, I'm going to use a 1/4 cup. But if you were to use, say, all Granny Smith apples, then you might want to add maybe another 2 tablespoons of sugar. I added 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon to my apples and I mixed it up, and if you would like, you could also add 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg if you like that flavor. I also rolled out my dough as thin as I could possibly get it, and then I cut it into 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter squares. That is the smallest you can get these without having it so that there's like 3 times as much crust than there is apple. Because if you roll it any smaller, it's going to be really difficult to put a lot of apple in there. So I put some of the apples in one of the circles, and what you want to do is triangle it off and kind of smush down the sides a little so they're stuck to each other. Then you take a fork and you just want to kind of crimp the edges together like that. If you have other methods of sealing it that you would like to do that you think look pretty, you could do that. Another thing to note is that if you would like an egg wash on yours, you could put an egg wash to make it nice and golden brown, but I prefer to not have an egg wash because it can sometimes impart a flavor. And you also want to do 3 hashes on it like this so that the pie can breathe a little, it'll ventilate. So I will just finish up, and then you want to bake them in a preheated 400-degree oven for 15 to 20 minutes. I just pulled my apple turnovers out of the oven, and you know they're done when they are lightly golden brown all around, but the edges are nice and crispy. And I made a really fast caramel sauce in the meantime. This is made by combining 1 part butter with 2 parts brown sugar, and this is in volume. And then after that comes to a boil, add another 1 part milk, and then boil it for a minute after that. And then you'll get this lovely, smooth sauce, and it's really fast and easy to make, and it can top these off really well. If you don't want the caramel sauce, right before these go into the oven, just sprinkle them with sugar, and that will make up for the sweetness. Can't wait to try these with Paul. Hi, we are here with Paul and Shai, and we are going to be tasting these. We already put some of the yummy caramel on top, so happy birthday, Paul. Let's dig in.
That's actually really good.
It was good.
I'm glad you like it.
My compliments to the chef.
Oh, thanks. The pastry should be nice and flaky.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
That it is.
It's really good.
And since you cut the 3 holes in there, the filling turns all syrupy and it thickens up just like apple pie filling.
Well, thank you for
Thank you for watching, and thank you to you too for joining at the end for the taste test.
Thank you for having us.